Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Iron Canon podcast, your home for in-depth discussion on the lore, the High Republic, and the whole canon of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew. I'm coming to you from Underworld North Studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where it is election day. So, also tracking the votes there. I'll bring that up in a bit. As always, I'm joined from across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how you doing this week?
I'm doing okay. I'm calm. I'm collected. I'm seeing Revenge of the Sith tomorrow. Yeah, I'm seeing it at 3:10
Nice.
in the late afternoon. It's gonna be funny if I can. So I might actually have to. I might actually have to go on a little bit of a social media hiatus. I'm gonna be missing Andor, as it airs. So I will watch it that same night, of course, because I stay up late and have a terrible sleep schedule.
Right, it comes up 6 o'clock there. That's right.
So
Yeah,
I
we'll
might
be
be
back
at
then.
dinner still.
Oh, yeah, fair. Yeah, so good.
No. I mean, so yeah, my plan is see Revenge of the Sith, have my dinner, hang out in the mall, and then go
Nice.
home, and then late night we'll check up the next 3 episodes of Andor.
Yeah, good call. That's right. Comes out in 24 and a half hours. There we go.
Yep.
But for now, that's the second arc of Andor. We're talking about the first arc of season 2 of Andor, or Star Wars story, which immediately hit the ground running. It picked up the story from season 1 while masterfully charting a course for the rest of the show. And also sets a darker tone to the Empire, albeit one that connects more deeply with the wider Star Wars story in this period. So yes, we are keeping our eyes on screen for Andor Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Get to the plugs out of the way at the top. You can follow us on Blue Sky, primarily at ironcannon.bluesky.com, or social, rather, ironcannon.bisky.social. Also, we're still on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, if you want to check us out there. Also, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, if audio is more your speed. When we're done recording, when we're done chatting, I will throw this up onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can listen away. Let us know if you're listening. I'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, also we are proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld podcast network. Oh my goodness, I'm awake, I promise. And here on the Underworld network, we have YouTube memberships on the Underworld YouTube page, I should say, YouTube account, whatever it's called. We have YouTube memberships, we have super chats. So please, we will get to your comment as soon as we can if you comment. But if you super chat us, we'll get to it immediately. There we go. That's how that works. We're grateful for any support you could provide to the network and to the channel and to everything we do here at the Star Wars Underworld. Also, speaking of Underworld, the Discord server down in the description below. There's a minty fresh link, as I like to say, that will get you into the Discord server, and we can chat about Andor. There's an Andor spoiler channel that I should probably check out after I've seen the episode. There's all sorts of fun channels to chat about, and screenings and events, and anything happened recently, anything coming up.
Last Friday we watched Andor episodes 1 through 3. I want to say 1 through 4.
That would be impressive.
That would be impressive. This week we might do a game night because Star Wars Fortnite is starting, I think, the Friday
Sure.
of this week. So we will probably be taking a little detour from Andor to go to that. And yeah, but be on the lookout for that in the future.
Nice. Yeah, definitely check that out. The water's fine. It's a nice spot to hang out and chat about Andor, react to the show, as we will do tonight. Also, speaking of reacting to things, Tractor Beam Comics reviews every Wednesday. Chris is back from Japan, so every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. No, the other way around. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Underworld YouTube channel. Chris Abbott and I chat all about the comic books that came out that day, or as the case may be, we got a very packed show, as you can see, coming up this Wednesday. We got to catch up on some books we missed because Chris was away and I took a break and all this other thing. So check that out. We're going to try and talk about Edge of Balance Premonition and Volume 4 together. We're going to try and talk about High Republic Adventures number 17 and the Battle of Ariadu together, and then get that Beyond Victory one shot from Celebration that we both have a copy of. Speaking of which, Tyler Smith, looking forward to getting into your work on Wednesday. There we go, High Republic and all that. Good to see you tonight. So check that out this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, because Wednesdays are for comics. Comics are for Wednesdays. Also, Chris will mention a little bit of his experience at Celebration in Japan. Be happy to talk about that a bit. But yes, as you can see, action-packed, very full episode coming up for you on Wednesday night. All right. Moving right along. Then did I forget? I feel like I'm forgetting something. No, I'm not forgetting anything. There we go. Weekend Star Wars. You said you're about to watch a movie, certain movie that came out 20 years ago, but you have some thoughts on the box office numbers.
Yeah, it's like the largest re-release ever. I'm not quite sure what the actual statistics are, but it's doing great. And I kind of had two observations about that. About that thought about it being so huge. The first one is the movie itself. I mean, look, I think Revenge of the Sith, out of all the prequel movies, especially for people my age and your age, although you're a little older to remember the other ones, is a little bit more stronger than, say, even Phantom Menace. Like, I was 5. I mean, to be fair, I have a terrible memory, so maybe some people have better memories than I do.
Sure.
When Phantom Menace came out, so my world is like only starting to really form. I'm 10 when Revenge of the Sith comes out, so I'm a lot more fully formed and have a lot more nostalgia for that. And now we're like, youngest of us are like 29 at the best. So we now have some disposable income. The economy hasn't crashed just enough just yet for us not to spend it. To go see this movie in droves, and obviously I think that's a big reason for that as well. I think another reason, though, and this is something a friend of mine brought up on Blue Sky, is and at least I hope this is true. Is I do think in general there's a hunger for Star Wars in theaters. I think there is a want. I think that no matter how many Star Wars streaming shows there've been, I still think that there's still a hunger for, like, no, we want Star Wars in the theaters. We want the 2-hour and 30-minute run times and the theatrical experience of going to the movies. And at least I think that that's another big reason for such good numbers, is that there's just a hunger for Star Wars in theaters again. So that's a good sign moving forward. So yeah, those are kind of just my two observations as to why it's been such a big hit.
Yeah, I mean, those make sense. And you talk about the prequel generation, right? And that we've all now grown up. We either, I was old enough to remember the nonsense that came out after episode 1, but I just didn't care. I got sucked into it, but then I got delivered from it. Praise be. And those of us who either came back to the prequels or never had an issue with it, are at the core of the fandom now. And even the casual fans. I mean, I've seen it twice already. Even if the economy tanked, I'd still try and see it once.
Same here.
you see the ticker there. I'm in control of the ticker there, so you guys know what I think and what I feel about this film. But yeah, it's it makes sense that we're able to actually go and spend money again. Also, like, casual fans, like, again, both screenings I've been at have been full, and it's like, and now that gets more to your second point, I think, in that people do want to see Star Wars in the theater, and we'll get into that a little bit with Andor, and we've talked about this before about the release order and how the release schedule, I should say, for this show. And yeah, it's true. It's really belongs there. I'll get to my thoughts in a minute, but to respond to yours, those make sense. If you have any more to add.
No, those are just the two major ones of just, it's prequel generations finally got the spending money. We don't have to ask our parents to go see it. We can go see it ourselves. We're grown-ups. No,
I took my mom.
We can take our parents, or we can take our parents, or we can take our children if we have any. So it's sort of, and obviously the hunger. So yeah, those are like the two big reasons, I think, in general.
As you can see, I'm the one who controls the ticker, so I'm throwing in the goat there, and of course, Revenge of the Sith at 20, other high ground. Not that hashtags work on this thing. It's just fun to do. Just putting that out there. Yeah, I saw it twice. I'm seeing it again tomorrow night. Man, what do I say? Yeah, the first thing is, oh my goodness, Star Wars belongs on the big screen. To your point, it
Mm.
just such a reminder that even watching it on Disney Plus. So again, this is the first time. I guess Thursday night was the first time in 20 years I had seen this thing in the theater. I had not had an opportunity to, or I just wasn't paying enough attention to before, if it was in theaters before. The one time I've been to Celebration, they didn't have screenings. So, this is the first time I've seen it in the theater. And man, that Venator at the beginning, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are flying, massive. It doesn't, like, watching it, even my TV isn't that small. It's 43 inches. It's fine. It doesn't do it justice. That Venator, just the scale, the scope of the cinematography in that film, especially in that first sequence, which is the greatest first sequence of all time. When they're flying along, then they drop in to the Battle of Coruscant. There, absolutely phenomenal. Looks so great. I mean, by that time, of course, in 2005, the CG had been developed to such an extent that they could make it look really fantastic. And just remembering, yeah, how beautiful that film looks and is. What I found myself the first time watching was not so much thinking about the film, because I've thought about it plenty. I did have do some more thinking maybe the next on Friday when I watched it again, but the first time I didn't find myself thinking. I just felt myself feeling the film,
Mm.
feeling, thinking, having in mind John Favreau's point about indie filmmaking and character moments. And maybe it was something to do with Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan's heads being so large right in front of me, but it was the quiet moments that I really noticed and felt that, for oddly enough, for all that this film is, at its
A
heart,
lot. It's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but it's the quiet moments that are really make this one, and it's the quiet moments that are actually what make it so different. I've always been struck by uh, Phantom Menace, and well, almost all of them. Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, New Hope, famously. Not so much Empire, but definitely Return of the Jedi.
I
And yeah,
think with
before.
Empire has lots of quiet moments.
Well, what I'm getting at is most of them have their third act is uh, a big space battle and a big ground battle and a
Oh yeah,
lightsaber duel, right?
right.
That
Mhm.
the formula. Uh, Last Jedi kind of spreads them out. Um, Force
And
Awakens or Rise of Skywalker kind of do that.
Empire's also a little quieter as
Yeah,
well.
Empire's quieter too. It's true. Um, but the fact that this one starts with the big battle, it's
Mhm.
like conclude, and having seen the Clone Wars and having seen Clone
Mhm.
Wars finale, and like it really feels like the conclusion to something else,
Mhm.
and then it launches into Anakin falling to the dark side in the second act. And yeah, again, just feeling those close character moments, these actors' performances, seeing them on the big screen, connecting with the characters. I've talked about how this film, uh, I mean, and all of Star Wars, I say this all the time. Star Wars at its best works on the personal, the political, and the cosmic together. Often I think about the cosmic and the political when I think about it, but you feel the personal. And I found myself focusing on the personal here, on what Anakin is experiencing in this, what
Mhm.
Padme is experiencing in this, even though she gets sidelined in this movie. Um, just yeah, Anakin's journey into fear and distrust and being manipulated by Palpatine. You know, yeah, it was a different experience, a different way of watching this film for me, and you're always picking out new layers. I think the second time watching was a little harder just because I the theater was a bit more distracting. I'm also used to watching it by myself, whatever, at home. Um, but I did find myself thinking more about uh, the way that Palpatine is able to manipulate Anakin into this great internal contradiction, especially how I've always been struck by this, right? How um, Palpatine asks Anakin effectively to spy
Mhm.
for him. I mean, not really, it's not subterfuge, but privately has this conversation, spy on the Jedi Council for me.
Mhm.
Obi-Wan has this private conversation, spy on Palpatine for me. And for Palpatine, he thinks it's just serving his friend, whereas with Obi-Wan, he thinks it's betraying.
You mean for Anakin? Oh,
Yeah, for Anakin, he thinks that with Palpatine, it's just helping out his friend, and who has lifted it up this great honor. And with Obi-Wan and the Jedi Council, Anakin feels like this is this horrible betrayal and compromise of his values, and yet he's being asked to do the exact same thing. So, I mean, it really got me thinking. This is the second time around. It got me thinking about, about politics and technology, and how we've talked about elections and politics not really being about facts and sober assessment of facts, but really about feelings and fear, especially. And yeah, I got to thinking about that in that second viewing. So hopefully, and I'll see what happens the third time around tomorrow. Third time's a charm, and looking forward. Yeah, looking forward.
I'll
to
give you a fun
very
challenge.
many.
I'll give you a fun challenge for you for the third
Sure.
time if you want.
Mhm.
Try watching Revenge. I mean, watch however you want.
I mean,
I'm
I
not telling
want to
you,
watch it just to enjoy the film, but
of course. But yeah, but I mean, here's a fun. But here's a fun one.
yeah,
Try watching it and see if you can synthesize Clone Wars 2008 with Revenge of the Sith, because that's always something I talk a lot
yeah.
about. How I
Mhm.
still watch that movie. It's still kind of like I don't get the impression that Obi-Wan fought Darth Maul like 3 times, or that Anakin has a Padawan out there
Hmm.
doing Ahsoka stuff. Um, and try to see if you can kind of
Yeah,
mesh the two in your brain together when watching that movie. Um, that'd be something I think be fun. I mean, obviously do whatever you want.
yeah,
Your reaction's your reaction, but that's just the fun.
yeah,
It's sort of like the whole challenge of try watching A New Hope as someone from 1977 who doesn't know anything,
yeah.
right?
Which I find fun too. But
Oh yeah, that's always a fun one.
I mean, the thing is, like I was saying, with the first act, I was able to do that. It really felt like having in mind uh, that moment where uh, Anakin's talking with Ahsoka and Obi-Wan bursts in saying the Chancellor's been captured, and off they go.
Mhm.
That, and also just all the big battles that we've seen in the Clone Wars.
Mhm.
That this feels like. I mean, this is the thing with George dropping us in the middle of the thing, quite literally dropping us in the middle of it,
Mhm.
right?
I think for
Well,
me, I
yeah,
can never have that
yeah.
because I watched the 2003 Clone Wars, which it
I
also
mean, I
ends
watched
with
that too,
which
and it
also
does have a similar kind of So go ahead.
which also ends that way. I think to me
Yeah,
that's always a definitive version in my head,
all right,
just because I
that's
saw
fair.
this so young and saw. I mean, I saw that first, and then I saw that rendered like a couple months later. So,
I think it's that it came out before.
oh yeah,
I think that
that also
makes a
helps.
difference. Also, I mean, we all only saw Clone Wars season 7 when it came out. I only saw Clone Wars. I don't know when it was on Netflix, maybe 2013,
Was it on? No, I
whenever it
thought it was
was.
on DVD. It's definitely on DVD, but
Whenever that was,
mhm.
I remember like 2013, 2014. That's the
Okay,
first time I saw Clone Wars.
okay.
I was late to the game there, so that's well after Revenge of the Sith has come out. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Oh,
I
absolutely. Like
Yeah,
I knew who General Grievous was. I knew the situation. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw the cartoon, so I'm all
right.
good to know.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that speaks to the way, similar to the way paper canon changes the way we watch a screen story. You know,
mhm,
yeah, like beforehand, if we read something beforehand or read a comic book beforehand, and then it's just like, uh, oh yeah, that's like Vader fighting himself on Mustafar. That's like what Vader's saying to himself on to Kenobi and Kenobi. You
mhm.
know, sorry guys.
No. Bye bye.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm alive. But yeah, definitely looking forward to going back and watching the greatest film of all time in my books tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know if you have any last thoughts on Revenge of the Sith at 20 for now.
I mean, at this point, we should just do a review of the movie at some point. But
Well, yes.
yeah. I mean, I think
Mhm,
Revenge of the Sith is a unique movie. I think it
mhm,
is. I think it's a unique Star Wars movie, to say the least. I think it's really such a melodramatic
mhm,
movie that honestly, like it feels like it honestly could be three films of its own. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
it's that jam packed with stuff.
Hmm.
If you look at the behind the scenes stuff, you can kind of tell
Yeah.
why. It's gonna be even more jam packed with stuff.
Well, so jam packed that they said, "Oh shoot, we got to actually make a whole series about this Clone
Yeah,
Wars thing."
pretty much.
Yeah.
And what was I gonna? It has a tone and vibe to it,
Hmm.
which I don't think any other Star Wars has really gone for. Not that they should. I mean,
Hmm.
I think Revenge of the Sith is the story that kind of demands it. Um, and
Hmm.
it is for all extensive purposes the end of the Anakin story. We can say 7 through 9 all we want. We can talk about Ahsoka, but I do think 1 through 6 are a completed story. They are a
Hmm.
completed whole. That is the end of George's saga. You know, Clone Wars is there
Yeah.
more to support it
Hmm.
and add little bits in between, but it's not really meant to go beyond or beforehand. And I think that's what will always make it so unique. It is the last Lucas Star Wars for
True.
all intents and purposes. I say I can get to this point. We should review the movie at some point because I've got
Yeah.
load more thoughts I could go into, but I'll end it there
I
before I
mean,
ramble.
yeah, maybe in May when I mean you're gonna see it tomorrow, so
Yeah, I mean I
uh,
always remember the movie, so it's not like
yeah,
I'm gonna forget.
yeah, but that's true. Uh, Seeing it fresh is always
Mm,
fun.
yeah.
Definitely looking forward to your thoughts on it next week. I'm
Mhm.
I'm putting you on the spot for that now. There we go. All right. Speaking of reviewing stuff, we got a show to talk about. We're joining the podcast area. Here we go. Eyes on screen. Arc one sets the stage. Let's go.
Yeah, Andor episodes 1 through 3. I guess let's just start with our overall thoughts on the 3 episodes. We kind of went into this
Mhm.
with Tractor Beam last week, but I thought we should just go over it again for the
Yeah.
audience, and we can be no not spoilers, so we can definitely from here on out we're gonna spoil.
Yes.
So if you
We're
haven't seen the
spoiling.
episodes, come back
It's been a whole week,
later.
guys.
You got a whole
But
week. So spoilers.
all
Have some
good.
water while I let you guys duck out.
Yeah. Yeah. Duck out and watch the episode and then come. I mean, these videos aren't going anywhere. They'll be on
Hopefully,
on YouTube also. Anyway.
like we have to say they won't. So
Yeah.
yeah, overall, really good, strong start. As I said before, if you liked Andor season 1, you're gonna like Andor season 2. I can tell already.
Mhm.
Definitely a lot faster start as well, just with the opening salvo of Andor stealing
Yeah.
the TIE fighters. And you can kind of tell, like, yeah, there's a little bit of truncation of they're
Mm.
trying to fit an arc into 3 episodes, and it's done brilliantly, but you can
Mhm.
kind of see that, it's not gonna be as maybe these arcs are gonna be a little more episodic, even if there is an interconnectiveness to them for sure.
Yeah.
Um, it's not anthology, but it's not like it's not like season 1 where there might be a little bit more cohesion
Mm.
in the kind of the overall structure of a single year, which is obviously, they said that why they didn't do that because they don't want to spend 5 years of their lives,
Sure.
which is fair to them. They got
Yeah.
careers, and they want to do stuff and stuff without streaming. But regardless, really strong. All the arcs were really fun.
Mhm.
And of course, getting into some really brutal, brutal moments especially
Yeah.
in episode 3, which we'll definitely talk about
Mhm.
at length. But another thing I found was this is a definitely you said this was very darker in terms of the Empire, and I don't disagree, but it's also there was
Mm.
a little bit more lightheartedness to
Yeah.
it, a little bit more jokiness. Obviously, the end of episode 2 has very much a Star Wars moment of like some. I was listening to Jonathan Ferrex the other day, and they're like,
Mhm.
like fans like to go, "Oh, Tony Gilroy's so above it." No, he's not. He did a Easter egg.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely one of purpose. I definitely feel like, but of course,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
he's not above it. Tony,
Mhm.
it's just still Star Wars.
Yeah.
So there's that. And of course, spoilers. Krennic's in it, and he just gives his bombast that we all love so
Mhm.
much, and we'll go into those scenes in a little bit. So definitely all the fun strengths of Andor
Mhm.
episode of season 1, but I can tell a little bit more lighthearted. Maybe not lighthearted, the good word, but there's a lot more comedy than
Mhm.
certainly the first three of episode one. And you can probably tell this is both edging towards the more familiarity of
Yeah.
Star Wars, even if I don't necessarily think, Jedi are going to show up at the very end or anything like that. But
Mhm.
it's definitely going in that more familiar direction as we kind
Mhm.
of get to Rogue One and A New Hope. But yeah, I loved the first arc. I thought this was pretty fun. So yeah, Matthew, your overall thoughts on the arc?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just maybe a bit of a reiteration from Wednesday. The only thing I'll complain about with the release thing is just I just don't have time to watch it again. I've only watched it once, and it was on Wednesday and then Thursday, which is fine. Or Wednesday and then Wednesday, or whenever it is I watched it. But uh, yeah, otherwise, yeah, really strong, like you said. What I mean by with the Empire is some of the whole doesn't pull punches thing you're
Right.
getting at
They
in
do
that.
think that we can't say the word of, or we'll get in trouble with YouTube.
Yeah, and so yeah, but the fact that they go there and the fact that
Mhm.
it continues from season one of that. Oh, the Empire is evil. They're not
Mhm.
just they're not just kind of the other team.
Right.
They're the kind of folks we do not want
Right.
around, like the
Right.
kind of folks we have often, unfortunately, and that's
Mhm.
that's the scary part as I keep an eye on the election here. um, yeah, and that was awkward, but anyway, yeah, like you're saying, he is also more lighthearted. Yeah, in season one, Tony Gilroy was above it. He cared to be above it. For season two, it's very clear that that wouldn't serve the story he needs to tell. He needs to tell a Star Wars story. That's why they brought back the Star Wars story thing, partly, but also, uh, I don't know, maybe to connect it with Rogue One more as a little cue, a little clue. But yeah, like I was saying, it's very much starting to feel more like Star Wars. More like the space opera that we know, as opposed to the prestige political drama that we had in season one. So
Although
I'm
there's still plenty
more.
of prestige political
Oh,
drama.
absolutely, absolutely. It's just that there's
Mhm.
just a lot more
Mhm.
things to nerd out about that again serve character and story
Mhm.
so clearly. It's just the character and story happens to be moving into this larger world, and or Cassian has stepped out into this larger world
Mhm.
where there is this rebellion against the Empire. And this
Right.
is what the Empire is, and this is what these ships are, and this is what's going on, and this is what this planet is, and all that. So
Mhm.
um I think I'm gonna like it more. It's gonna be maybe even a bit more accessible to folks. Oddly enough, this is a bit of a paradox. You know, we season one may have been accessible to casual fans who love that kind of intense, intriguing prestige TV. Season two is going to be accessible because Star Wars is accessible, because it has the fun and the
Well, I mean,
adventure.
there's certain things I wouldn't want a bunch of little kids to be watching, if you know what
No,
I
I don't mean it's not a kids show. I just mean the regular casual audience.
mean. Sure. Oh yeah.
It's two types of being accessible, right? And again, there's that season one was accessible because it's familiar to the the intense, intriguing prestige TV. Sorry, guys, getting over something. Um, season two is going to be accessible in the ways that Star Wars is accessible in its fun action adventure, while
Mhm.
also continuing the intense, intriguing, gripping prestige TV. So it has the makings of something even that's more than the sum of its parts, and that's what the first arc has really shown us. So excited for the rest.
Oh yeah. It's also continuing to hopefully prove my big Andor to A New Hope watch order,
Yeah.
which if season two goes exactly the way I think it will,
Mhm.
I think that will be an order to watch Star Wars in. If not like introduce people, but at
Mhm.
least for fans to like, hey, let's watch a Star Wars in a weird order this week, and let's do this order.
Yeah.
Which I think will be fun and thematic and all sorts of things, which I can get into another day.
Mhm.
Um, so let's start a little bit with Catherine's storyline. I kind of broke
Oh,
up the notes into like storylines and scene by
sure.
scene by scene. Um, I want to talk a little bit about before we get to Cassian and the
Mhm.
knuckleheads. The opening Tie Fighter.
Sorry,
Uh,
that's funny.
yeah,
Sorry,
I
keep
mean
going.
that's what
They
they
are
are.
knuckleheads. It's true. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Or worse, university students. Somebody had canons that they're probably all just university students who decide let's become gorillas,
Pretty much.
and that's what happens.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Um. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about the opening Tie Fighter
Yeah.
um heist moment because I really like the beginning moment where Andor is talking to um uh what's
The fellow conspirator is what
well
you're saying.
considered a person, and she's nervous, she's scared, and it's very sweet to her, which I found
Yeah.
very nice. I would feel Andor is more. I think maybe people overestimate that Andor's not as gruff as we think he is, or at least not gruff now.
Hmm.
Um, and I really like
Hmm.
what he said. I wish I had the whole line of dialogue with me because I don't
Yeah.
remember it, but he's like, you're coming home to yourself by
Yeah.
doing this. Just by fighting the Empire. Period. Do you win? And you're almost
Mhm.
reclaiming yourself. Um, and I thought that was a very great little moment, a little speech by Andor
Mhm.
to this co-conspirator. But I don't remember how much you remember of the speech. But
Yeah.
what did you think of that opening little salvo to the co-conspirator?
I mean that's the key quote, and at least in that speech, right? You're coming home to yourself. I was just interesting. I was just looking up David Onyewu. Is that his name? Um, who plays sorry, plays Alexander Callis.
Mhm.
Uh, just having to reading just on a rabbit trail, Wikipedia rabbit trail, reading Callis's bio or article, and he has a similar line about how
Oh, I found it. Can I
yes,
read it for a second?
yeah, go ahead.
Um, he says, I found a little bit of it. You never feel right unless you're doing what you can to stop them. You're coming home to yourself. That's what he says. That's the sort of the full quote.
Yeah,
And actually on StarWars.com, so that's great.
yeah. Sorry, I gotta get this name right.
David Oyelowo?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Oyelo, yeah. Oyelo, yeah. Sorry. Anyway, he has a similar quote about how he's saying to uh Governor Price, the day I found it, the day I betrayed your empire, Governor, was the day I finally stopped betraying myself. Interestingly enough, I just happened to read this the other day. Um, and yeah, it was again this really poignant thing of facing fear is facing the resources within yourself and finding them within yourself. And I think of even Luke's line in Rise of Skywalker, confronting fear is the legacy of the Jedi. And to tap into that legacy, that destiny within each one of us. And not all of us have to be rebels against an empire. Some of us have soccer scarves above their heads. Uh, that's just a fun thing. But yeah, it really it shows his heart. It shows even kind of a he's his mother's son. Because Marva
Mhm.
would have that kind of pithy, tell him he has everything he needs, and when his passion and skills come together, he'll be unstoppable, force for good, and things like that.
Or
And
I
then
think he even says like,
yeah,
"I'm free." Like when he was alive, he was like, "I am free. I'm free in here. They can't
yeah,
they can't scare me anymore."
yeah, or fight the empire, but she didn't say fight.
Yeah.
That kind of way with words.
Mhm.
That is a part of motivating people to great courageous acts. Also, scriptwriters of the show again continue to be top notch. So yeah, and just an interesting way of starting the show with things we've seen from the trailer of this TIE fighter heist, and he's get in there, and there's also the comedic moments. Starting off with this comedic moment of this isn't the schematics, this isn't what I trained for. What's going on? What I got to figure out, and how he figures it out, but he's also kind of in the lurch there. So
It's a little
yeah,
more pulpy. It's definitely a little bit more
yeah,
like action pack, which I don't think this will be necessary. I don't
yeah,
think Andor is going to turn into an action show,
no,
per
but
se.
it's already a lot more Star Wars.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot more of that
Mhm.
zing. to it
Mhm.
for sure. And then he meets the chuckleheads on Yavin. It's Yavin.
It's Yavin, by the
Yavin
way.
4. Well, yeah.
Blinking, you'll miss it, but
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that this was definitely not my favorite part of the arc per se, but I definitely liked. I thought. I mean, I thought they were kind of funny. But also I think it's good to show just kind of in the timeline where the rebellion is at this
mhm,
moment of they're still disorganized. They're still well, not
mhm,
maybe not everyone's disorganized, but these guys certainly are.
yeah,
Saw's got more organization than these guys do up at this
mhm,
point.
mhm,
Just how these guys are like just so out of their depth. It's like they lost their leader, and it all what goes to heck in a handbasket for them, and they're
yeah.
just kind of fighting over who gets to be in power with rock paper scissors.
Literally.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also think it's interesting that kind of shows that also shows the secrecy of the rebellion. Still, it's
Mhm,
like they didn't know that Luthen's guy was on their side, so they shot him, and it's like, oh shoot, but they can't say because Luthen needs
mhm,
everything to be secret still for now. And I do think the Yavin connection is symbolic of their. I think these guys
mhm,
were like right next to the base where the most organized rebels are going to find themselves
mhm.
in less than 2 years,
Yeah.
quite frankly, depending on when Yavin's base is established. Because I do think it's established before Mon Mothma officially declares the rebellion, if I remember right from Rebels, because
What does
that's
Wikipedia say?
that's because I remember like Masasi cell,
Yeah.
Masasi cell phone. No, I don't want. I didn't know that's a thing.
Saucy stuff.
Masasi group.
Yeah.
They were established. Let's see, date dissolved. I don't want the date dissolved. I want when they were established.
Mhm.
It doesn't really say.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're at least around by 2 BBY. So, okay, so they're around by 2 BBY. So in
Mhm,
4, 3, so that's 2 years.
mhm.
When Dodana's group,
Right.
decides to do something. Who knows what Dodana's been doing? Um, but no,
We might find out.
we
Sorry.
might find out. I hope so. I'd love to see
Yeah.
Dodana in the show. Um,
Yeah.
even if he's played by a different actor, we can just get a guy with a white beard. Great.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, I thought this was a funny moment. There's definitely not much to chew on compared to maybe the
Yeah.
other things, but I definitely thought it was definitely fun. Uh, just but what do you think of this little arc of
If
this part
if
of the arc?
yeah, I'm like, if this was it, this was the show, then I'd be, what are we doing? It was definitely the weakest link.
This
Only
is where
because
Mandalorians would make more sense, weirdly enough.
yeah, actually, I mean, we've seen Mandalorians fighting each other for no good reason. Well, they're hangry. That's not a bad reason, right? They're
Yeah.
hangry. There we go. I know the ego and fear, but they're also hangry. And yeah, like they're kids who think they've got it all figured out, and they're really just knuckleheads. Yeah, it was. I'm wondering. You know, here's the thing: it is we had this other F word when we talked about Rebels, for example,
Mhm.
and Dave Filoni would always be seeding something in for the future, even if it didn't seem like it made sense now. Or like, what's the point of this? Uh, I don't know. It'd be kind of silly if the only point of this was that's how we get the Yavin reveal, the Masasi Temple reveal. That would be silly. There's got to be something else to
I
this.
don't expect these guys to live. Look at them; they're getting eaten
I
by
don't
the.
know, I don't know, something about maybe Cassian knows this planet, knows how remote it is, and he has a way to get back there because I don't know something about that. But like there's some context. Yeah, possessed by Exarch. Yes.
Yes, extra key.
So yeah, it was kind of just this. It almost seemed like it's device to keep him away from Bix a little bit. I'm saying this. I know it's hard to critique the show because it was so great, but this was the one I was like, okay, let's get back to Mon Mothma. Let's get back to Bix. you know, 'cause these guys are annoying, is what they were. Maybe that's part of the point, is for them to be annoying, and then for Cassian to transcend them and figure his way out. So it is an obstacle. They're almost like antagonists to him in that way, in that they're just an obstacle to him getting off and getting out to where he needs to go. But yeah, okay, he took a transponder and activated, so that's good.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, we'll see those temples again. We see them in Rogue One too. That was a fun moment in Rogue One. Obviously, we see them in A New Hope. I know that, but yeah.
I mean, again, I don't expect them to live. This is Yavin 4. This is like filled with cis monsters. It's like,
yeah,
Yavin's a dangerous place. I'm honestly kind of shocked the rebels actually managed to survive that long. Those temples must be really secure. XR Coon's looking out for the rebels. He's like, okay, these guys are cool.
Sure.
Well, let's. I don't have much to say on them. I'm actually gonna hold off on the Bix gang for now. I want to go to now the Deidre storyline for a little bit, because that is where it was intercutting with in the first place, and the appearance of one director Krennic. Oh, I love the first moment with Krennic. So we always talk about how Andor is very historical in its presentation. This whole meeting, and Tony Gilroy talked about this, is based off something, and I'm going to butcher the name, called the Wannsee Conference. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what the Wannsee Conference is, the Wannsee Conference was during World War II with a bunch of high-ranking Nazi officials who pretty much organized the Holocaust. And it's just like this. There's a great movie, but it's Kenneth Branagh, called Conspiracy. We should go watch it. It's really good, really twisted, about just organizing the Holocaust. And it's just like this. It's, it's all, we got a bureaucracy. It's like, well, what about if we just do this? And it's like, wait, my department has to deal with that. Like, no, I got to do budgeting. We laugh, but it's very kind of like morally just like, and even the people who like object to the eventual extermination, they're against it for like logistical and procedural reasons. There's no morality for it. It's not like, no, this is horrible. It's like, well, this is just logistically bad, and like we need the resources somewhere else. And this is very much showing the bureaucratic nature of the Empire, just organizing the Gorman massacre. It's like, well, how do we get the Gorman? How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna like? We gotta extract the mineral for the Death Star. I mean, they don't say Death Star, but we all know it's Death Star.
Wink and nod.
We can nod. It's stable, unlimited power, as Krennic says, and I love that line. You knew what they were doing. It's like, well, what if we like start to plant the seeds of our propaganda? Like, oh, these Gormans, they're a bunch of hoity-toity, they're evil-looking spiders, which you spiders. And it's like, Powder Gas is like, hold on, wait a minute. Gorman isn't just some outer rim nothing world. They have political weight. If we do something bad, the people are going to start noticing. Like the people we don't want to notice will start noticing, and then everyone's kind of debating and whatnot. And obviously Krennic has his eye on Deidre, who I also doesn't want the assignment. But I think she doesn't want the assignment not for any moral reasons. I just think, again, she sees this as just an Empire PR nightmare just waiting to happen. That's just going to cause a lot of people, which obviously it does, because we know what the canon says with Mon Mothma, wake up a lot of powerful people to realize, oh wait, this Empire might be evil. Like,
you think?
And I think that's why making the Gormans human is such a big deal, because. Again, it's like, wait a minute. Gormans are humans. You're not supposed to be massacring the humans. You can't massacre white people. That's our privilege. We have a human privilege. Core world. So, just a great scene. I mean, I love Partagaz. He's my favorite. And it's just great to see Krennic again. What did you take away, Matthew? What did you take away from this moment?
Yeah, knowing talking about this conference, which I should know about these things, but
well, I like to hear a little bit of
it was a great your background here, solidifying civilian government. Yeah, but it's kind of weird because it's this fictional universe set in a
Mhm.
galaxy far, far away.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, this is fascinating. This is intriguing because, I mean, I love how even just the connection to Catalyst, where it's
Mhm.
not, yeah, unlimited power. My mind goes to uh, uh, Galen trying to actually use Kyber for as an energy source,
Mhm.
and how Krennic is saying, actually, well, hold on a minute, we're turning into this weapon instead. Turns out, and
I don't know if he ever tells him that or Galen finds out because I
he
think Galen
figures it out.
always.
Yeah, he
Okay.
figures it out. But yeah, just again the politicking of
Mhm.
the empire, which we don't see much of,
Mhm.
don't see enough of. But uh, yeah, Krennic being a bitter ex, yes.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, that also. But I mean, on that note, though, it was great to see Krennic be formidable and in charge.
Mhm.
Because in Rogue One, he isn't really. In Rogue One, he's about to come to his limit. He's a bumbling, sort of angry, bitter man, shell of a man, especially in light of Tarkin, right?
He's
In the
dealing with the
shadow of
big
Tarkin.
boys. He's dealing with the big.
Yeah, and Vader, and the choking on his aspirations. Whereas in this, he's the big fish, and I mean Ben Mendelsohn definitely bringing that out, bringing a different side to him out, and yeah, a much smarter, sharper side to him, yeah, it was good to see that angle of him. Again, we
Mhm.
hadn't seen that, so I'm hoping to see more. I'm looking to see more. Again, the politicking of it all
Mhm.
really fascinating, and really, yeah, well, just a well acted, well done scene. I forgot who I saw on social media talk about how had the courage to spend a third of this episode on an energy debate. You know me, I always love these. My their Senate debates and Jedi Council debates, and uh, you know Luke and Ray on Octo sitting chatting, and Loki and Sylvie and the He Who Remains chatting, and for me, I don't know why I find that so funny, but so fascinating, but just the way those conversations, things can happen in those conversations. And yeah, seeing almost, how Deidre, she tries to, yeah, the PR nightmare, but she's trying to make the most of it. And, I mean, setting this up, like, where's she going to go in this morally? Is she going to stay the course here? Or is she going to actually grow conscience? Because the trailer suggests she might actually grow conscience with the choking scene. Like, what if she's realizing something? I don't know. I mean, and we'll get into the other part of the Deidre storyline in a minute. Um, One interesting thing to think about is Thrawn in this, and you know, uh, this is all paper canon, but considering, just maybe this is a bit of a tangent, but like you're saying how uh, at Wannsee, I guess how you pronounce it in German.
Once a conference.
Yeah, there are people who are objecting on logistical, practical grounds, and like in
Like they
this,
all hate the Jewish people. I just want to make
yeah,
clear.
yeah,
These people, even the people who object, still hate the Jewish people.
yeah. Um, like they're still all right with genocide. Thrawn is objecting to the Death Star. He's figuring out the Death Star. He's objecting to it. This all these duonium shipments. What's going on? And the whole strategy of the Death Star. I mean, he's definitely in more with the tag doctrine than the Jen Tarkin doctrine. Get Star Destroyers everywhere. That's how you keep control. Kind of thinking again, it adds this thing of he doesn't really care about people either.
Right.
That oddly enough, I mean, underlying that again, I know this is all paper canon, but we're gonna see him in live action, really with all Star Destroyers, is taking on Admiral Akbar, and this is of course set 8-9 years later, but maybe more, maybe 15 years later, but still interesting
Well,
to think.
remember, Thrawn's got limited resources. He probably only had the one Star
Oh,
Destroyer.
that's true, but and but even in this time period, he's
Got Night
uh,
Sisters. Got Night Sisters.
starting to take the fight to the Lothal group, and um Yeah, but also figuring out the Death Star and how uh he doesn't have a moral opposition to it. It's just a practical one, and that being the line, that being the distinction. And if you are able to cross into the moral,
Mhm,
carrying out the moral dynamics of this,
mhm,
that is coming home to yourself, to bring back the quote. So
right,
uh I'm curious to see, again, a lot of this has been setting up for a future, and a lot of raising questions for the future.
mhm.
We'll get into things that it shows in this one, but yeah, really, really curious about Deidre, where she goes with this story.
Yeah, my guess is probably she's gonna double down on Empire
Yeah.
stuff. That's just my vibe, but I mean, you never know.
Hmm.
Definitely the massacre is gonna not be good.
No.
Obviously, because it's such a man. I guess it's definitely gonna. I mean, maybe that's
Hmm.
why she's panicking because it's like, oh my god, this happens. It's Ferrex again, but worse. Like I've
Right.
created it in some ways. The could have planted the seed for the Empire's downfall. Um,
Which all empires, I mean, that's Leia to Tarkin, right? The more tight
yeah.
you tighten your grip, the more star systems slip through your fingers.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I was watching
Mm.
Daughters of Ferrex review of it, and Sophie had a great point that a lot of these
Mhm.
regimes, so sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do,
Mhm.
have their Gorman moment where it's like
Mhm.
even the most apathetic or just the most people who don't care,
Yeah.
people are stupid to be blunt, people are stupid.
Mhm.
Will realize, wait a minute.
Mhm.
Something's not right. Wait a minute. You can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
there's that moment where it's like, oh, shoot, we have repressed too much. Like, the moment, like, even the most
Yeah.
apathetic will, like, whoa, whoa, wait, hang on, whoa, what now? Like,
Mhm.
everyone has their, like, moment. Um,
I mean,
I'm,
just thinking about the real world, hopefully Canada has that moment tonight, because we got Trump
I,
light in second place here.
I mean, you never know. But,
Yeah.
they have that moment. I mean, that's why I
Mhm.
always say, Gorman and Alderaan were kind of the two double whammies, and the Death Star
Mhm.
destruction, the triple whammies. Because like,
True.
okay, I mean, clearly you attack Gorman.
Mhm.
That that at least in canon's context is an important core world planet of weight and significance.
Right.
So it's like, holy moly, the Empire did that. This is when those with institutional power like Mon Mothma was already starting to.
Mhm.
We've already been doing rebel stuff, and now it's like time to go full on out.
Yeah.
Now, time to duck.
Mhm.
Start pulling their weight for the rebellion. This is when Alderaan's another example of like, hey, wait a minute. Alderaan's like the jewel of the Republic, the corest of core world, one of the founders. It's like
Mhm.
the Emperor destroyed that. It's like if he can destroy that, he can destroy me, and I'm supposed to be the rich.
Right.
Um, and then when you destroy the Death Star, obviously that fear goes away. It's like, wait a minute. If the Empire can be hurt in such a big way and
Yeah.
lose such its brains with Tarkin death, kind of the brains of the Empire, then
Mhm.
oh shoot, the Empire really can be hurt and wounded, and that
Yeah.
starts to wake up everyone to like, holy moly, like maybe Palpatine can
Mhm.
be destroyed. Um, which
Yeah.
is why I always say the Battle of Yavin's the true turning point of the war, where it's like it's not a matter of if, it's kind of a matter of when
Mhm.
at that point.
That George Lucas
There's
making things make sense. There.
uh
Yeah.
I mean,
So
maybe
this is a good segue to,
we got some good
yeah.
ones. We got a lot of people here. Hi, everyone. Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to my favorite sitcom. Everybody, everybody loves Cyril. Um, duh.
And you got the jokes today. What's going on?
I know. I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
Um, I hate to say it, guys, but Cyril and Dedra, I ship it.
Yeah.
They work in a twisted sense and dealing with the mother from hell. Cyril's a guy wife, confirmed.
Sure.
He seems like he's coming up in the world. He's now the manager of the procurement place or
Whatever.
something. Like he is.
Standards, weights and standards and measures and things like that.
Yeah, he is on it. Like this is his life. He is ready to go.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, this is funny. This is um I'm kind of curious. I mean, this is just kind of interesting to see the two of them just together and
Yeah.
seeing Cyril's mom be put in her place, which is,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of nice. I mean, as much as we don't like Cyril, it's yeah, kind of can't help but feel a little bit for him at the same
Yeah.
time. Teacher standing up for her man.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is both weird and funny. I would love a whole sitcom about them. It would be bizarre and creepy, but it'd be funny at the same time.
Yep.
Um, and boy, their house just sterile and bland. But I bet
Minimalism. Minimalism
minimalism.
is the word you're looking for.
I mean, I bet they love it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're weird, but it works.
Mhm.
I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. 10 out of 10. Make this the whole show.
Okay.
Yeah. What you think of just this little moment, this little
It,
mini arc?
it was such a fascinating look at domesticity on Imperial Coruscant,
Mhm.
domestic life of an ISB agent and her wife guy. And
Mhm.
hey, I would for if someone would sticks up. I mean, my mom is not the mom from hell, but if I'm in that situation somewhere, and if my partner sticks up for me, if I have a partner who sticks up for me, I will happily be her wife guy, no questions asked. I'm done.
Exactly.
And I honestly, I the first part of season one, yeah, you're like, okay, this serial guy, why is he have such it's a Javert complex for Cassian? But as it goes on, as he gets more and more pounded into the ground, I definitely start to feel for him, and I actually don't dislike him anymore. I think I'm kind of pulling for him to do well in life, and he seems to be doing well in life with this relationship with this potential, like we were saying here, this potential architect of a genocide. Chris has this great question because where's he going? Like, yeah, like he seems to he has this soft side to him that we're connecting with, that I think Deidre even connects with, Dedra, or whatever her name is, even connects with, that might actually see what happens on Gorman. What if he's one of the folks who goes? What if he's something? Does he have the stones to actually defect? Um, is he, we're gonna get these time jumps. Who knows what happens in this fourth arc? If with them, I don't. Yeah, I with you. I don't see Dedra turning, turning, but it might be that she never comes home to herself. Maybe that's the thesis statement of this whole show. It's right at the beginning. It's right off the top.
Cyril,
Just saying
Cyril.
with Cassian
Mhm.
saying, you know, that folks who are maybe in the Empire or resisting the Empire, stepping out and doing the courageous thing of fighting for good, fighting for justice, fighting for flourishing, they're coming home to themselves. And so, I mean, like with Mothman, Secret Cargo, right? We're getting the inside story that we're going to get to that in a bit, but um, we see her in Secret Cargo really come home to herself in a deeper way, and yeah, wonder, that's the thing with relationships. Again, this is more the personal, but if people change, people can go from being compatible to being incompatible,
Mhm.
and this might be one of those things. And I think Dedra is just too cold. Her coldness is a strength when she's sticking up for Cyril in this one. Her coldness is a strength, at least. I don't know, not a strength, a practical strength when she's working for the Empire here, but uh, it might actually keep her from herself in going along with this genocide on Gorman. So
Cyril
yeah.
to me, even in season one, felt like a character who you feel bad that they're alive at the time.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that I get the sense that you almost wonder, like, what would they have been like during the time of the Republic, like when at the like the a good time in the Republic, or a
Mhm.
better time, um,
Yeah.
in the Republic, like if they were alive during the High Republic era or something.
Mhm.
Um, because
Mhm.
Cyril's thing is he had this sense of like justice, and
Yes.
he seems like he wants to do right,
Mhm.
but unfortunately to him, I feel like this is a motion of his personality so warped that he's in a system that
Mhm.
he doesn't realize that, oh right, the system I'm actually fighting for is actually corrupt and horrible. Um, like I'm a corpo, but like he thinks like I'm like a police officer, like I'm doing justice and I'm making
Mhm.
sure that all the things are run on time and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And he like I serve this justice republic, this justice empire, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, And, you know, uh, he thinks Cassian, like the reason why he hunts Cassian is because Cassian did kill those two corpos,
Yeah.
in kind of cold blood. I mean, they probably, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, he had to do what he had to do with, like, he is trying to bring to justice, you know, this killer, Cassian, who killed.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm not putting a moral judgment on Cassian, of course. Cassian's still like, on the good. Where, Deidre is always trying to keep the empire in power. Um,
Mhm.
she was doing it before, she knew anything about Cassian. Um, and Cyril saw Ferrex, but I don't think he understood what was going on to
Mhm.
kind of get that this planet's being oppressed because he's so detached from everything. And even in the Bureau of Standards, I
Yeah.
forget what it's called. He uncovers a bunch of corruption, which I mean, on its own is not a bad thing. It's like, yeah, it exposed corruption. That's
Mhm.
that's um, I think everyone should try to expose some corruption as possible. Just unfortunately, it's the Empire.
Mhm.
Its corruption's in its blood. Um,
Right.
so I do wonder if the Gorman massacre, and if I think Cyril does not understand the system he's in, and I do wonder if he will or won't, because they're either going to double down or they're going to wake
Mm.
up and smell the roses. I think Deidre is more likely to double down, like like the Lost Stars characters do, like the one
Yeah.
who saw Alderaan blow up and then realized, well, I
Oh,
have,
that guy. Yeah.
yeah, like, no, wait, the Empire is actually this was the right thing to do. So,
Yeah.
um, that, I mean, maybe, um,
Mhm.
so
Like the
I
guy
think.
from Alderaan who sees the planet blow up.
Yeah, and then kind
Yeah,
of
that guy.
rationalizes that, no, this was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Zero is either that or he will come home to himself
Mhm.
and realize that, oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong side. Um,
Yeah.
it is actually interesting just from a
Yeah.
narrative perspective that outside the Corpo thing,
Mm.
he hasn't really been responsible for like some horrible stuff compared to Deidre, who did torture Bix pretty bad.
True.
In
Mhm.
season one, like she's like
Mhm.
really, she and that doctor are responsible for why Bix is having nightmares, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yeah.
Um, while Cyril's been kind of kept away from a lot of the more
Mhm.
direct horrors.
Yeah.
So that's from even a narrative standpoint in terms of like, here's your list of crimes. Cyril's got a bit of a shorter list
Yeah, that's true.
than, even though he kind of accidentally is the catalyst for all the bad stuff that does happen. It's more like he didn't realize
Yeah.
it at the time. But
That
yeah,
being said, he has this weird, creepy crush on Dedra for a
oh
minute.
yeah, that's totally true. But
Yeah.
I think if any of them really do have a chance to make a turnaround, it probably is Cyril before
Yeah.
it's Deidre. Um, because again, Deidre tormented Bix, and I think that can get to the next arc.
Yeah.
The Bix and the Ferrex
Well, I
gang.
just want to
Oh yeah, go ahead.
say with Dedra and Cyril, it's interesting to bring up Lost Stars.
Mhm.
It does make me think about that. And because that's a YA novel, they kind of have to end happily ever after. Thane, yanks Sienna from her Star Destroyer and just
But
like,
doesn't
okay,
that guy still stay with the Empire though? So
yeah, that guy does. But I'm thinking of Thane and
Mhm.
Sienna, who the kind of he ends up turning to the rebellion, meeting Mon Mothma and getting all drunk and meeting him and kind of, but whereas Sienna, she is a true believer, and and Thane has to yank her off her Star Destroyer downed on Jakku. And when is this sequel to that book coming out? But yeah, I wonder. I mean, if anything, what if Cyril is able to show up as in a stronger, more confident character as he's come to himself, and either have to leave Dedra or yank her away somehow, not against her will. That's weird, but um, yeah, it raises all these possibilities of this inspiring. That as in it might be kind of inspired. That's again another way that paper canon affects the way we watch screen shows. Is this is like that? Interesting parallels. So
Or
yeah,
maybe he finally sees
yeah,
Dedra like organizing this massacre and
yeah,
realizes the massacre. Like, wait a minute, why are we killing innocent civilians
yeah.
here? Like, because
Innocent white people.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
even outside that aspect for a minute, when he's going up against like, when
mhm,
he's a corpo,
yeah,
again, I'm not saying Cyril's a good guy, but I'm just trying to get into his mindset.
yeah,
He thinks he's going up against thugs and criminals and gangsters, and like they think
mhm,
like we're going to war, we're going to war on this town. And they think it's like a war
yeah,
zone, and Cassian's like this criminal mastermind who has like an army when he's not.
mhm,
And then realizes I'm over my head. Um,
yeah,
and to see like like Deidre's like, no, we gotta do this organizing. Actually, one more thing before we go back to Bix.
yeah,
I thought it was interesting because this is something season one brings up because Saul's mentioned. Okay, so two things.
mhm,
Sorry.
all right.
The My Paper Gay, which who are the Chuckleheads at Yavin, they were mentioned in season one
Yes.
by Saw. They're my pay, a new Republican.
Mhm,
Um, and he then Saw goes the Gorman Front, a
mhm,
partisan alliance, lost,
yes.
all the lost. Um, I love
Mhm,
Saw. I love doing Saw voice.
yes.
But then Deidre was talking to Krennic, like, because she's saying this is what I think we need to do. She said something along the lines of, "You need a group of terrorists or rebels you can count on to do the wrong thing at the right time." But that makes me
Yeah.
think two things. One, are we going to see the Gorman Front in Gorman?
Mhm,
And are we going to see like maybe this goes to Cyril realizing what's going on? Deidre like paying or secretly funding the Gorman Front to do the wrong thing at the wrong time, which has happened in real life.
oh, sure.
If Fred, you're in the comments, I'm sure you have an example of like CIA funds rebels who are against us, but we fund them because we know they're
Mhm,
gonna screw. You're gonna
yeah.
screw them over. Actually, no. Here's kind of an odd example. Um, during the Syrian civil war,
Hmm.
uh, Syrian government had ties to ISIS, even though ISIS wanted to destroy the Syrian government. But my phone, stop it, Siri. But
Siri.
I
Sorry.
know.
That's fine.
But they did that because
Mhm,
they wanted to have the most worst extremist group
mhm,
grow in power a little bit to then show the world, hey, wait a minute, hey, Assad, he's the reasonable one here. But
yeah,
look at these
interesting.
guys, look at these crazy people. I mean, U.S. did that too. We did that we did that
Sure.
with the Al Qaeda people and whatnot. So it's like
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see like Deidre's like here at the extremist Gorman Front. They don't have very good discipline. We're gonna fund them. We're gonna show like, oh shoot, like these guys are powerful. We gotta send in the Empire.
Mhm,
And then it's like, we cut off their supplies. So
yeah.
it's all false flags using manipulating groups, CIA style and all that stuff.
Yeah. That I can see for
Mhm.
sure. I mean, another real world example, right? There's at least theory. I don't know if it was confirmed or proven, but that like the G20 summit here in Toronto, this would have been like 2012, 2013. Uh, we knew there were going to be riots kind of around.
Mhm.
There's a theory, there's a possibility that the police embedded themselves in the rioters to stir up more trouble and to cause more havoc.
They do
And
that.
yeah,
That has been documented that they
so
do
that the other
attack.
police can come in and use more extreme measures and potentially violate charter rights and things like that. Hold people without warrants or whatever. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I can definitely see Dedra doing that. Again, it's a question of how does she feel about that? What does she think about that? How does Cyril feel about that and think about that? Because like you said, like you pointed out, when he was with the Corpos,
Mhm.
he had such a strong sense of justice. That's what his motive. He's lawful evil, and kind of lawful neutral there.
Mhm.
It's the lawful part. And not so much lawful just to the letter of the law, but like you're saying, thinks he's going to be taking out these thugs, folks who are disrupting the peace, disrupting the order
Mhm.
that the Empire brings. And if he sees Gorman as an example of the Empire bringing disorder
Mhm.
to and destabilizing what he thought was stable. And for someone like him, he needs that kind of stability. I mean, that's why he's probably at home in this this Ministry of Measures or whatever, Department of Measures, Standards or whatever it is, and he's okay with this desk job and okay with being the wife guy because he needs that kind of stability. And Dedra's the one who goes off on these secret missions and has this dangerous job. Again, I think that's going to really challenge his sense of justice, and I hope it does. And it's going to be fascinating. This is fascinating. I honestly, I really, this was, I don't want to say this is the most enjoyable arc. Oddly enough, it was just as awkward as the Knuckleheads,
Mhm.
but awkward in an amusing and an engaging way. And the actors did such a great job with this too. Of course, all three of them did
Mhm.
tremendous. And so, yeah, it was really satisfying to see. So,
And it's nice to see Krennic again.
yes,
Keep us-
Coruscant, domestic, but especially Dedra and Cyril and the Mother from Hell, like domestic Imperial Coruscant. Who'd have
What's her
thunk
name?
it?
Edie? Edie?
Edie, I think.
I mean,
Edie
I've been
Carney.
saying this all week. We, I mean, certain Andor fans don't want to admit it, but we live in a world where Edie Karn and Emperor Palpatine exist on the same planet. Now imagine if those two met.
Who knows who's Uncle Harlow?
I
Who's
think
Uncle Harlow?
who's more evil, Edie or Palpatine at this point, right?
Yes.
Like I don't know. I think Edie's more evil and powerful than Palpatine would be.
If she had the power to, yeah, maybe.
That's why I had Canon
Mhm.
Palpatine's mom was like.
Yes.
Especially Palpatine's mom just comes to be a pal, just like,
Mhm.
you're the emperor, but you never call. Know.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Now we gotta get serious.
Yeah.
All right, because we're getting to kind of the more serious ones.
Yes. From the
Um,
ridiculous to the sublime. Yeah.
Bix and the Ferrex gang.
Yes.
Oh boy.
My stomach's churning a little bit, but what
Yeah.
we're getting into here.
Yeah. Oh wow. They go there. They go to a place that we can't even say the word
Mhm.
because of YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely the thing about Andor that I think I like and appreciate about the show, and I think it's certainly something. It asks the question of, okay, we live in this world of space wizards and larger than life people,
Mhm.
but what do average people who aren't larger than life and aren't space wizards, what do they have to deal with when Luke destroys the Death Star or Palpatine
Mhm.
declares the Empire? What are they up to? And this, I mean, obviously, this gets into some really deep stuff. I mean, they're illegal immigrants, doing labor on this farm. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, they're just trying to get along. The Empire just randomly shows up for the inspection.
Mhm.
Sometimes they check the cards, sometimes they don't, and they abuse their power. And we see that one officer abuses power in the most heinous but truest way possible. And they aren't afraid to say it. It is a that word. Um, which
Mhm.
I'm glad they do say it, because I feel like if they
Yeah.
didn't, there would be people trying to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, it wasn't that. He was just attacking her."
There were people saying that anyway, probably.
Oh, probably.
I'm glad
Um,
Bix says it.
yeah,
Bix
I'm glad.
herself, like, she owns it, and Adria Arjona owns that moment.
Mhm.
Um, as if she owned bashing the guy on the head.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah. And uh, I have to another point I want to make later
Yeah.
regarding Brasso in terms of an observation that people have been making about a particular scene.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm curious about that too. But anyway.
but I'll ask you this, because I somewhat spoiled this for you, but I did that intentionally because of the
Yeah.
trigger warning
Yeah.
on Tractor Beam.
Yeah.
So going into it knowing that that was going to happen, I guess,
Mhm.
what were you expecting? Were your thoughts? Let's just talk about the
Yeah.
scene itself. What were you expecting? And then when you saw the scene, was it worse than you expected? More? What was your kind of initial thought after you saw it?
After, honestly, was relieved that he doesn't succeed.
Yeah,
Because I not that that makes it okay, but
that might have
you
gone too
know,
far.
at least because Bix shows gives women an example of this is what you can do. This is what you're capable of. Uh, if someone is doing this to you, you can do that back. I mean, I really don't kill the guy,
I thought
but
he does die.
yeah, I said ideally don't kill the guy, but you can and should fight back, and if you're capable of fighting back, um, that it's possible. It's possible to defend yourself. Uh, hopefully, and that yeah, it shows that, but also again doesn't sugarcoat it,
Mm-mm.
and really shows. I mean, that's the thing is, yeah, that we have this fun scarf and this fun fantasy world that we enjoy, and I talk about the conference with the Gorman thing, and it's fascinating and interesting. But at the end of the day, the Empire is not something we want. It's not something that is worth valorizing and worth enjoying. I mean, I guess there's a room for it as as a release valve to have fascinating Imperial stories. I think there is a space for that. But at the end of the day, we have to come back to um, they are going that well that there are movements and governments and groups in the real world that are uh, denying and trying to deface and obscure human dignity, and the empire is always since 1977, this is what that George Lucas guy was doing, and Tony Gilroy is doing it in 2025. The empire is always uh, a reflection of that darkness that we are all capable of giving into and being complicit in a way that we are all complicit in. Um, we can't really exercise ourselves from capitalism here. I mean, I'm using Apple and Google and everything that they are doing in the world, but uh, again, ultimately, yeah, this is the horror of what's going on, and so leading up to it, having knowing it was coming, it was stressful to watch. I watched it right after we recorded on
It's not a
Wednesday.
fun scene. It's not a
No, and it's intentionally not, right?
fun.
It's intentionally meant to be disturbing and distressing. Again, there's a relief at the end that Bix is able to defend herself, and I
Mhm.
appreciate that. But that that is what these governments do. That is what um, passes for defending American security, defending American interests, right? Um, making America great again. Please let me go to San Diego Comic Con. you know, um, that's what that looks like,
Mhm.
and not this uh, Pretty Rose's fantasy of genteel young men treating women with respect who they just happen to uphold traditional values that are like about courtesy and respect and decency. If they actually did that to the extent that more conservative folks do that, I hope they also are and end up being horrified. I hope they have their Gorman moment. And that's the thing is I keep wondering, looking at that country there for the last 8 years, wondering when are you going to have that Gorman moment? Are we, what's our results tonight? What are we having a Gorman moment? It's closer than we thought, this election. And, you know, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a lot stronger. We have a lot more of a culture of that. But, there's this guy he's in second place still. He's got last count elected in 8 and leading in 48 ridings. So he's still in second place. But he sounds a lot like Trump in everything he says and thinks and cares about. And, we need to have a Gorman moment as well. Possibly. We're getting that close. So, again, it's the power of art, the power of film, the power of Star Wars to reflect back to us our real world in ways that, sometimes are an escape. But that's the thing with this show, Andor. This big storyline, Varric storyline, it's the most in continuity from season 1, both in its characters, but also in its tone and its concerns and its style. And so it was the most gripping and the most engaging because we're already so invested in these characters. I mean, that's how a season 2 kind of works. But yeah, to see even the time you talk about Dedra and Cyril, Cassian and Bix, we know from the trailer that they have a moment together. I think, that's already really well set up, and that Bix is there waiting for him. She can handle herself, as we see, but together they're stronger together and more than the sum of their parts. And they show that by the lack of them being together. And together they would have definitely taken up the knuckleheads and gotten out of there. Together, we never really see them together in season 1, even only not really working and fighting together, right? She's recovering from torture, so
she still is technically
she still is,
as the nightmares.
As you're mentioning, the nightmares. And so, but she's able to work and fight, move on. It's a year later, but yeah, I can't wait to see what happens when they're together and when they're actually able to engage each other. And I hope this one lasts. I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, look, I think, I do think maybe a more firm trigger warning at the beginning of the episode would have been nice for some people, especially
Yes,
for those
that I
who
agree with.
definitely don't want to. I mean, look, I totally get someone who doesn't want to watch this if they're just if this just makes them uncomfortable, and obviously, that's what the trigger warning is for.
Yeah.
I even slightly understand to a certain extent of whether or not we should debate on whether or not this is something that belongs in Star Wars, period. I will say for myself, at the very least, this is as well handled as I've ever seen something like this handled before in Star Wars, because the few times in Legends books when they've tried this, it's always been more for shock value than sort of like in some of the later seasons of Game of Thrones, where it's just more for shock value than like some storytelling. So, there's definitely that. I mean, there's definitely the issue of Andor is definitely a bit more of a sausage fest in terms of the behind the scenes. I think it's all men directors and writers, unfortunately. But they handled it well as they possibly could for certain.
Yeah.
I'll say I think you could get away with, well, whether or not you get away with it, but I think a show like Andor, in terms of the sort of the overall tone, it's tried to enact the flavor of Star Wars it's showing, could attempt this, and it attempted it well. So I would definitely give it that compared to, say, Mandalorian or Ahsoka,
Oh
where I
yeah.
don't,
No.
where that's not or Skeleton Crew. Um,
No, gosh no. I mean, well, that one putting kids in trouble and danger a little bit, but no, this one, this it fit perfectly in everything the show is and about, right? It
the only
is
other
doing, I just want to say,
yeah,
but it did it not for shock value. It said it's Bix, right? She can handle herself. She's strong and she's tough. And even though she's strong and she's tough, if the system is against you, that's not enough.
right.
Um, that the system needs to be for you instead. And that's it's all the whole argument about sharing the table. Well, if the table is tilted, you know, even someone, why don't you cry for help? Why didn't you fight back? I mean, she did fight back. She was still victimized, and yeah,
Right.
it again, it didn't do it for shock value. It did it to push the character forward and show the character. It did it to show, again, we have to feel something about the empire here. If
I
they were if it was just an ideology, if it was just another political party,
mhm.
then we wouldn't feel what we're supposed to feel for Cassian and for the Rebel Alliance, right?
Right. I mean, I think Andor kind of knows its boundaries. And
Yes.
sometimes I think even ways that maybe even classical Star Wars didn't always do.
Mhm.
I was listening to Tapcaf Transmissions and Corey Datapad, friend of the show, and fellow Canadian. They're both fellow Canadians
Yep.
on that show.
Mhm.
They brought up Slave Leia
Mhm.
and kind of the
Hut Slayer
unfortunate.
Leia, but yeah, I see where you're
No,
going.
I mean Slave Leia, because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, ignoring the book. Sorry, that book doesn't fix that problem of
Mhm.
there's a lot of unfortunate context
Yeah.
in that. It's like obviously we don't see anything, but
Mhm.
there's a reason why Java put her in there.
Yeah.
And George has done stuff like this before, where there's unfortunateness,
Mhm.
like how Indiana Jones made love to Marion when she was 15 and he was 22. Uh,
Yeah. Iffy. More
yeah.
than
So,
iffy.
so it's again, this is why I say it's probably the best it's been handled in
Sure.
a Star Wars. If
Mhm.
Star Wars is allowed to do this,
Mhm.
then I mean maybe having a woman director and writer would also make it even
Yeah.
better. Well, better. But as of right now, this is
Yeah.
probably the best I've ever seen it handled.
Yeah.
And
No, I get what you mean. Yeah.
I will move on from there. Um,
Mm.
one more thing about this whole scene. Well, two things. One,
Yeah.
be too emo. He just makes me sad. Like
Yeah.
like poor BT. Pooh. That he just wants to hang out with Cassian.
Yeah.
Um,
They'll be reunited.
I hope
I think they'll be reunited soon.
I hope so. The second thing is
Mhm.
I think I misinterpreted the Brasso moment where he's accusing the guy of selling
Yeah.
them out. At first I thought he really did sell them out. But now I'm starting to think, and I've heard this theory by people who think, Brazzo's saying that to him to get him out of trouble, to say
Mhm.
like, "Oh no, like you sold us out," and so the Empire thinks, "Oh, he's one of us. He's cool." Because rather than kind of gives him this little look, and there's like this
Mhm.
little smile that the guy who's kind of been helping them on the planet says, "It's like, okay, you can get out of here. Like, live another day." Did you get that the first time you saw this? I've seen this
I mean,
interpreted.
I've only seen this scene once, and I thought he was betraying them, but I don't know. I
I
mean,
watched it again, and I think I
yeah,
saw it. So
yeah.
that's the interpretation I've seen a lot of people go back and
I'll
forth
have to
with there.
watch it again. I mean, at the end of the day, it ends up with Brasso getting killed, right? Which is tragic, but again, what's Cassian coming home to? Um,
I mean, this
yeah,
goes into
I don't
something.
know. And again, the fact that Brasso gets killed in this, it makes it feel more like, I mean, because it makes it truly tragic if he's betraying them, if he's turning them in, makes it tragic. Makes it kind of this weird, unfortunate accident if he was only pretending or
See, and I think it
something. I
could
don't
be an
know.
accident because I think Andor's a show that's gonna
Yeah,
kill people quite casually. And
yeah,
by quite casually, I don't mean like, oh, let's waste the character. I mean, this isn't the world of heroic deaths and like big dramatic moments
Yeah.
where Obi-Wan putting the lightsaber. It's like, oh nope, he's dead. It's like
It,
Melchi in Rogue One. It's like he just dies,
yeah.
gets shot.
It's possible. Like
I, I, I,
I don't know. I'll have to watch it again. Melchi, we're gonna see We got to see Melchi again in this season. In this,
I mean, we saw him in
show, right?
season 1, so I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's it. That's fine.
I can see Andor being that kind of show where like a
Mhm.
lot of people get unceremoniously killed.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Um.
Speaking of somebody getting
Oh wait, hang on.
probably so good.
One more thing.
I was segueing, unfortunately. Go ahead.
I know, but I just wanted to say,
Yeah.
I also think that just in general, I
Mhm.
think Cassie and Ferrick's family is gonna all get offed by the end of the show. Because I think
Yeah.
I think Andor kind of needs to be a little bit broken by the time of Rogue One, so
Yeah.
Jin can kind of rebuild him back up again. Because he's always going about like everything I did for the rebellion needs to mean something,
Yeah.
and I don't think he would feel that way unless all of his connections to home are dead.
I see what you mean. I hate it, but it's probably right. You know what
It
I mean?
just makes
It's
narrative
so
sense to
sad.
me.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It's so sad though. And the only thing is, it makes me think of the Acolyte when with Yord and Jecki. But this is such a different show. That explains why it's such a different show than the Acolyte. Uh, Hopefully they do it like in the fourth arc. Then like maybe the second episode of the fourth arc or something. Just because
Blacklight
without
always had more of an Andor vibe to it than maybe a. I always felt leaned more towards the Andor side of things, where it's like
yeah.
doesn't hold its punches and is willing to go places.
Yeah, but I just mean with the Acolyte, I mean one of the issues people may have with that show is that I mean killing off Jordan and Jackie takes away. I mean, I get why. Like it takes away Osha's tie to the Jedi and to the light,
And
and
Souls too. I think Souls.
Soul's tie to the light too. Um, but then it made it just too dark and not accessible Star Wars, when a Jedi Space Wizard story probably needs to be more accessible Star Wars. This, there again, I think Dedra and Cyril are all the enough the more accessible Star Wars here, but and Cassian's adventure. But yeah, you're right. I hope it serves to propel, and this is what you're getting at, for it to serve to propel Cassian to a greater commitment to the cause. Possibly, in for vengeance, for for if it's for vengeance, then yeah, he is a little lost, because vengeance isn't the best motivation, right? It should be for truth and justice and the common good. Um, yeah, I can kind of see
It will
where you're going there.
genuinely be interesting to see how this show wants to end.
Yeah.
Because
Also, sorry, no good.
no, because ultimately, Rogue One is the end of Cassian's arc.
Yeah.
Retroactively, of course.
Sure.
And that's kind of him coming home to himself. He kind of comes back to himself of like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I shouldn't just be a killer, just always maybe think a little deeper about stuff and
Mm-hmm.
go rogue. What were you gonna say?
Well, just to pick up what you're going to say, that moment where he's on Edu, where he's about to kill Galen, right? That moment where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna not. What if there's something else? What if there's more to this?" Right?
Mhm.
What was I gonna say? Well, that none of them are in Rogue One,
That too.
so it's the canon story. Where do they go? They're not in the world between worlds. They're not on Peridia. They're
No.
can you imagine? This is the same universe. That's just blowing my mind. That
I mean, I think.
Ahsoka and Andor are in the same universe. Love it.
I
Star Wars
mean,
guys.
yeah. I mean, that actually is
Yeah.
something I've sort of thought about. I mean, this show's not going to deal with it, of course. I don't think the show
No.
has time. When you really think about it, like Luthen and Ahsoka are kind of doing the same thing of like getting rebel cells together and whatnot.
The
If Ahsoka's
Fulcrum
with
thing.
Bail,
Yeah.
so I'm like, does Luthen know what Ahsoka's up to at the moment? It's like, does he like have
Mhm.
hear word of like Fulcrum?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
Mhm.
all that, I did save
Yes.
the best for last. I do
Yes.
think this is probably my favorite of the storylines. The Mon
Mhm.
Mothma stuff. It's a wedding, everybody.
Who
Yay!
doesn't love a wedding, guys?
That's the one where you can get just drunk and plastered. Um,
Sure.
yeah. Oh my
Mhm.
god, like so much goes on here. Poor Mon. Poor Mon.
Mhm.
Like here's someone who's also kind of about to lose it all, and it's kind of in a weird way also kind of heading. Her and Cassian are actually, when you think about it now that you mentioned it, are
Mhm.
weirdly heading to the same trajectory, maybe of both just like the cause is all they're gonna have.
Yeah.
You know, this is sort of in some ways Mon says goodbye to her family. Well, I mean, not parent
Mm.
just yet, but soon. You know, like Mon saying goodbye to her daughter, more or less. I actually have some thoughts about her family now, and I maybe they won't be off as I originally thought for a couple of reasons. Um,
Mhm.
but you know, we see just the whole wedding. We see Trandrilla, or at least a bit of Trandrilla. We see the
Yeah.
Mothma estate. She's just Mon's loaded, man. She got like a nice house.
Oh, yeah.
Guess it
She
makes
is the
sense.
senator.
She's a senator. She probably comes from a long line family.
Mhm.
You know, um, I have to, before I get your thoughts, I gotta ask. Did you check on Ash to see how she's feeling about K-Coma?
I think she's in denial.
Okay.
So
He's
yeah, I asked. I think she's in denial. We'll get her on in 2 weeks and see what happens.
maybe K-Coma will be okay in the third arc. You know, you don't see the body. You know, we deal with K-Coma, with like who you just feel disappointed by. Like I'm so disappointed in you,
Yeah.
K-Coma. Um, but also, you know, funny enough, we do get a little bit of Lucen and Clea, who obviously let Clea go back to Coruscant, so we can talk
Yeah.
about them as well. And you know, I think we're starting to see a little Lucen slipping a little bit. I think we're starting to
Mm.
see the cracks
Mm.
of him. I think you know Clea seems to be a lot more together right now
Yeah.
than Lucen at the moment. Like Lucen's like Clea is she is on point. She's coming to clutch. Lucen's he's a little bit slippy. He's a little bit
Mhm.
slipping. He's a little bit more worried about Cassian um at the moment.
Mm.
And you know, I think this is kind of Mon having her breaking moment before she realizes it's all I gotta go all in on this rebellion thing eventually,
Yeah.
especially now with the loss of Coma. Um,
Mhm.
and of course, I love Perrin's speech because I think in a weird way, Perrin's speech. I think he got the right idea, but just the wrong way to implement it.
Mm.
Because, and I think you see this with Cinta and Vel, and they're unfortunately they're unfortunately not going to be heading to happily ever after. I think
Mhm.
of Vel's all for the cause. No, it's Cinta.
Yeah, Cinta's for the cause. Yeah.
Cinta. Vel is Mon's cousin.
Yeah.
Cinta's all for the cause. She's all about that work life.
Yeah.
Cinta, and I'm not saying Cinta's not against the cause, of course, but I think
You mean
Cinta
Val?
wants a life outside of it. I think she
Vel wants a life
wants
outside, and Cinta's
Vel.
in the
I'm
cause.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get those two mixed up. Vel wants a life outside of it. Just something for
Yeah.
something to come after it. To like have
Mhm.
a life, you know, to find that happiness in these dark times.
Mhm.
Perrin also mentioned that in the speech. I think he's implying it wrong, where I think he just wants to ignore all the bad stuff and just live in
Mhm.
ecstasy. But I think there is a healthier way to do that while also acknowledging, oh
Yeah.
yeah, things suck. But I think you can't just be in depression all the time. That's not mentally healthy.
Mhm.
And there's lots of work about activism stuff. Like you still need to have good mental health, and you got to,
True.
you're no help to anybody if you're just depressed or compromised and stuff like
Mhm.
that mentally. Um, but yeah, overall, this is probably my favorite part of the arc. Of course, it's my Mothma, so why not? But
Mhm.
also, I think there's a lot of stuff just going interesting on outside of that. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this part of the arc?
I mean, the monosense is here, and we're all loving it. Yeah, I definitely asked Ash, because for the first 2 episodes, I mean, seeing Mon and Tay and the vibe they had, definitely sign up for duty on the Monte ship. You know,
Hmm.
um, and all in on that, sure, but with Luthen saying to Cinta, or getting Cinta to ship him off to the farm. where they well, old dogs go to doggy heaven. That being said, true, we don't see the body. Tomorrow you're going to see a film where a guy gets yeeted off. Speaking of Coruscant, yeeted out of the window, and Sam Jackson still wants to come back. So, never, if you haven't seen the body,
Take Coma lives.
take Coma, take Coma lives. I don't know. I think this one. I mean, it is curious why they don't show it. Maybe it would have been gratuitous. Maybe they want us to wonder and want us to, the podcasters to talk about it. I just realized that I'm complaining about the release order, and that's exactly what Tony Gilroy was like. The podcasters won't be happy. Sure. Anyway, yeah, but again, seeing more seriously though, seeing this Monis and seeing Mon's character, oh my goodness, that almost kind of very subtle fight that she has with oh gosh, her daughter. Why am I blanking on her name?
Lita,
and like the Bajoran Dabo girl, Lita. There you go. Seeing the fight she has with Lita, I'd be like, I wish you were drunk. Such a biting, terrible thing to say. And so in her personal life, she's getting it from all the angles, right? Getting it from Lita, she's getting it from Tay,
getting it from Perrin.
Sorta, but I mean, Perrin's like you're saying, Perrin's this toxic positivity guy,
Exactly.
Getting there, just like all these things disintegrating around her, which is surprising because we know her as such a strong, all put together character. So to see her just getting smashed, getting wasted at this wedding and just going ham, to see her do that and basically lose control. I mean, lose control, and that's part of it. Is just she's so tightly wound, and she's trying to plan and plot out. Well, yeah, but that's the thing is because I mean she to kind of cope with her anxiety, she builds up this whole ability, like we see with Alexander Freed writing, ability to always plan 15 steps ahead and plot that out, and it's how she's able to pass this bill that Palpatine then vetoes, and how she's able to manage so much in the Senate, and yet you want to talk about the cracks forming here, and yeah, I mean, again, we're all this is all building up to that moment in Secret Cargo where she comes to herself. Where then, speaking of Thane and everything we see her doing, sorry, for the Rebel Alliance and then for the New Republic, that's what it is. Is we see her then. We see her when she's flourishing. We even see her in Ahsoka when she's maneuvering Xiono and helping Hera. We see her at that point. I mean, of course, she's building a democracy, so the things she's wanted to do for her whole life. At this point, she's she's been 17 years into this authoritarian dictatorship, and finally having her Gorman moment, if you will, and this. Sorry, guys. Oh, I gotta get cold medicine. Anyway, she this definitely prepares for that in a meaningful way, like you're saying with I like that point where you're saying with Cassian, right? That their personal lives are falling apart, and so they have to find a new family in the Rebel Alliance. And turns out Mom Mothma can be the mom of that family, but
yes.
Yeah.
Mom Mothma. Let's talk about Lucen a little bit too. I actually want to bring up a theory that I heard, a really interesting theory yesterday about Lucen, because I think Gilroy said like we're going to find out something about Lucen's backstory and why he's doing all this. And I heard someone gave a really interesting theory. I'd become curious to hear your thoughts on, and that is he's actually a Skywalker. No, I'm kidding. No, but actually, no, there is actually an interesting theory. What if Luthen's from Naboo and he
Okay.
has been watching the rise of Palpatine since he was a senator, and
Mhm.
like for a while been like, wait a minute, something's not right about this senator guy, and that's why he's been so in it for a long time. Like he's had a very
Mhm.
more closer watch of what's been going on. Actually, would be think be kind of cool if Luthen were there during episode 1 during the occupation by the Trade Federation, and kind of
Yeah.
pushing together like, wait a minute, what if this whole thing's just been one big conspiracy to get a Palpatine elected chancellor? Funny enough, the reason they brought this up was in the art gallery,
Mhm.
which to be fair, this could all be just coincidence. In Luthen's art gallery, there's a Naboo headpiece, one of
Yeah.
Padme's headpieces. Like, wouldn't that be an evolved? I mean, that to be fair, it could just be like, let's just put some Star Warsy stuff because they got Plo Koon's mask there.
Yeah. But they
But I
also
don't
have
know.
like a Gungan shield.
Yeah, so maybe like he's from Naboo, like maybe he's a Nabooian.
Mhm.
I once said, yes, what if he and Palpatine were like college mates during the day,
Mhm.
just so I can make the joke of Luthen going, I saw him once with a strange moon. I don't think that would work 'cause I think Luthen might be younger than Palpatine,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think that would be interesting if he had that backstory of
Yeah.
of he's a Nabooian. It's also the show again. I think if you want Star Wars to be Star Wars, those connections.
Yeah.
Naboo is the home of some pretty important people. Uh, Luthen, Padme, and Palpatine.
True.
But
And the Sentekas.
and the Zentekis.
There. Yeah.
But no, I mean, you definitely see kind of Luthen's like kind of getting a little more, kind of being a little bit more in the public. Like he's in
Mhm.
there during that wedding because of
Yeah.
he's talking to Davos.
Mhm.
Davos.
Yeah.
I know it's based off some of the
Skolden.
Scoldens. Uh,
Mhm.
with the statue, which by the way, nice Ricotton. The Ricotton mentioned
Yeah.
25,000 years ago. Come on,
Good
James
spot.
Mangold. Maybe are you connecting to something? Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I thought that was interesting that they're so out in the open, and Clay's like, I don't like being out in the open. We're naked. I need to get back to my board where I can do proper comms.
Right.
Um, but he's kind of getting a little cockier in Luthen as well. And of course,
Hmm.
obviously, but Luthen's still ruthless as ever, and he's like, you need
Yeah.
to be protected, Mon, which she does. I do unfortunately agree with Luthen here. Mon needs to be protected. She is too valuable, and I don't think Takoma has a number.
Hmm.
I actually had a kind of a bit of maybe a bit of a thought of like maybe Takoma's number is Mon Mothma. I'll let your mind go with that as you will.
Yeah.
Um, but if it's not. I mean, it's just pure greed. It's like you know, Luthen's kind of right. Mon needs to be protected, and she's like, well, you're lucky. You don't need to know what that means.
Yeah.
Um, um, No, I just thought that was very interesting. I love
Yeah.
how Clea is just Clea is very just, I don't want to be here. I need to get back to organizing this rebellion that
Mhm.
we're trying to organize, Luthen. Hello. 'Cause again, I think
Mhm.
she's on it. She is more on it than him.
Yeah.
But what did you make of Luthen in this arc as well, and kind of get to catching up with him?
I mean, definitely moves the story along, helps us see what's happening, understand what's happening a little better.
Mhm.
In terms of even helping me understand. Okay, Tay is going to be compromised by going to Davos. Maybe exposing this whole front fake charity thing to the Empire, maybe inadvertently, and that's part of the danger there. Um, yeah, again, I don't know if he has a number. Luthen's definitely skeptical of that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so that's why bring Cinta in to do the dirty work. I, again, Luthen's an interesting character because in season one, he's on the Rebel Alliance. He's testing Cassian, and at the end, he takes him in, but he wants to kill Cassian. He's just
He's a
and
loose
he
thread. He's a
yeah,
loose.
he's a loose thread, and he sends the whole group in as a to get massacred, because if they knew what was coming, then the Empire would know they have a mole, and the mole who wants out, and Luthen doesn't let him get out, and that Luthen thinks it's okay to have sold his soul in order to, for the sake of the cause. Truly, all he has is the cause, and he hasn't come home to himself.
I mean, I love the
And,
what the look he gives
yeah,
Perrin during that speech of like, yeah, buddy, I wish I could be that way, but I can't.
yeah, but that's the thing is, I think we're not supposed to valorize him either. We're supposed to be concerned and say, this isn't it either. Just like with Saw Gerrera, right? I think he's going in that Saw direction of saying, you're taking the assumptions of the Empire and using it, and it isn't just the means of the Empire; it's their assumptions about what a person is and what a person is for, and that has to include you as well, or it doesn't matter. And you know, Saw willing to commit these atrocities for the cause. Luthen may be willing to commit atrocities for the cause as well, and or at least too easily willing to off people, like with Cassian. I don't know with Tay if that's. I
I'm
mean,
like 90% sure that's probably what the intent is going to be.
oh sure, but I mean, and just thinking of kind of operational, morally, I think killing anyone is wrong. But if that is really for the sake of the cause or not, if there's another way, and yeah, again, if those are the cracks with Luthen, maybe because that's another thing to think. Luthen and Draven, Cassian is a choice in that moment on Edu to follow Draven's orders and execute Galen because he's a loose thread, because he's potentially responsible for the Death Star. To assassinate him, either he can go in that direction or he can go in this other direction towards true heroism, which is doing what's right in the right time. I mean, that's the thing. Dedra wants people to do the wrong thing at the wrong time. Cassian deciding to do the right thing at the right time. In this context, ultimately in Rogue One, it's about sacrificing himself. So that's the thing. Andor and the moral gray of Andor ultimately at some point has to give way to the shining light of A New Hope. And
Rogue One does a pretty good job of that.
Well, exactly. It's that moment on Edu where it does, right? That moment, that pause. Just like it's a similar thematically to The Last Jedi, where standing up against the First Order with a laser sword, that's not how to win. It's by making a delay so that the resistance can get away. That's the more courageous step, more courageous action. And so our definition of courage, Cassian is going to find out the definition of courage is maybe in having patience to get more information, because a daughter is maybe going to trust her father, and also in the Force moving in mysterious ways and these things in this universe, giving him a nudge to say hold on, the light saying hold on. So yeah, that's where all this whole show is moving towards Edu. It's moving towards Dantooine, as Red mentioned beforehand. It's moving towards Dantooine. It's moving towards Edu, and of course, Scarif ultimately. But yeah, this is Luthen and maybe Clea, more Luthen, and Tay and Perrin, and even Bix and Brazo, who are very much the good guys.
Right.
I see them having to fall away in order for Cassian to be able to move forward, in order for Mon Mothma to be able to move forward, in order for the Rebel Alliance to be able to move forward into the goal of restoring the Republic, and not simply being just the knucklehead rabble rousers who are fighting because they're hangry. Maybe there it is. That's why that's the point of those guys. That's the point of those guys. Yeah.
Although the irony is that my pay is a neo-Republican. I don't know whatever that means.
But to say, what was I going to say? go, from the knuckleheads who are fighting over being hangry to restoring the Republic and having this goal. Yeah, I mean, bring in Ezra, bring in uh Hera and Kanan and all them, and maybe not in the show, but
No.
maybe you never know. It's possible, but knowing that this is also happening at the same time, and of course that's a kids show, very different tone, but also bringing up the true heroism. Uh, and so again, all my point being, all these other characters need to fall away, and yes, Cassian needs to be lost. Mom Mothma needs to find herself and not be tied down, because that's what we see in this arc. She's just so heavy and so gripped in personal struggles, personal trials, things in her, these hooks in her heart yanking her in different directions. And and so I mean, I hope Perrin and oh my gosh, Lita, that her. I hope they're okay. I think it would be a little
I
too
actually have a
much
theory
if they
about
get
this.
off, but
I have a theory
I'm curious about
about
your
that.
theory.
I think. Well, I got a couple things about Lucen too. I want to go back to, but I'll get to the theory. I think Lita will be fine because she's kind of now married off to a new family.
Yeah.
The Davos Golden people.
I mean, they're criminals.
Right. So she's kind of now part of that family. So I think as long as I think she'll have their protection. Hopefully. Perrin's a little bit more harder to see what will happen. I could see a situation where Mon tried to get some plausible deniability to protect Perrin. Like, Mon might not love Perrin, but I don't think she wants him dead. I think Mon's trying to separate them as much as possible so that, when time is right, she won't have to necessarily have his life on her conscience. So I think that we're getting to a place where they're both kind of separate enough to be okay when she does her thing.
Let's hopefully. Sorry, breaking news.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, a minority be okay too. But
I expected as much, but
anyway, all right.
All right. Well, let's see how long he lasts before his polling goes down. Look at Keir Starmer. Like, he's got like 0% popularity now, and Labor's gonna lose so bad in this next election. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, and
Luthen. Well, first of all, you're talking about Lita. Sorry, I was distracted by breaking the news here. Yes, Lita. They're going to be more. You're saying they're going to be more separate and more isolated and more insulated.
Yeah. So the Empire doesn't like round up the whole family and shoot them. I mean, they might do that anyway, but
I mean, Lita. I like Lita. I think she's cool. I think I mean, it's kind of this funny, super trad rebellion, but who knows where she goes with it. So, anyway, Luthen, your theory about Luthen.
No, well, I mean, I told you my theory about Luthen and Naboo. My arc for the show is I do wonder in the next arc or the arc after if Luthen and Mons kind of if they will eventually come to a head. Because this is something Tony Gilroy also talked about is Luthen ready to go public with the rebellion? Because the rebellion, as we talked about with the Cassian arc, is still everyone's secret. Everyone's underground. Everyone's like, they don't know that you're in charge of. This person knows this person, and this person knows that person. It's like no one. Everything's kind of compartmentalized, and everybody kind of has their own little isolated cell. What Mon is going to do ultimately is, I mean, obviously the rebellion still has to be somewhat secret, of course, you know. But she's going to make the rebellion public. It's like we're no longer going to be just these isolated little cells all over the place. I mean, we're still going to have some of that, but we're going to have, of course, our fleet. Like in Rogue One, and Bale says, like we took all this time to gather our forces, like all the fleet and the ground forces. They're all in one area now. Obviously, they're going to have to scatter later after Hoth, but they do reform again. They are a public rebellion now. And I do wonder if Luthen's going to feel a little nervous about that. It's like, I've been, as Tony Gilroy always says, he's been this guy working at this company that's just his garage.
Yeah.
Now they're going to finally go public and it's like have a official organization. And
Mhm.
a corporate building on on Tatooine, and then Yavin. Haha. And
Yeah.
it's like I wonder if there's gonna be like some back and forth, or like Lucian like wants to stay in the shadows, and Mon's like, no, we need to finally go public. This is
Mhm.
our rebellion, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. It definitely, again, brings up the parallel to Saw,
Mhm.
right? And I mean, I like that we see Saw in season 1. I be curious. I mean, we got to see it in season 2.
He's
Oh,
in
we
the
do in the
trailers.
trailers. In the trailers. So yeah, I'm wondering, what their kind of interaction is, because it's a similar kind of thing we see in Rebels, right? In the name of the rebellion. I think it's that episode, and just how Saw is uh really. I mean, they're accusing each other of being imperialist in that way, right? That Mon is accusing Saw of of the atrocities of the Empire, of using those methods,
Mhm.
and Saw is accusing Mon of being organized, like the Empire is organized. I mean, it's just, we're obviously supposed to cheer for Mon here, but I wonder, well, here's the thing. I wonder with Luthen, is it going to be? I mean, that's an animated show. In Rogue One, he comes back. He's more helpful, let's say. With Luthen, is it going to be more nuanced? Is it going to be more complicated? Is he going to actually give us good arguments to latch onto? And yeah, maybe. I mean, I definitely can see, Tony Gilroy saying this, right?
Mhm.
Um, what's that going to do to his mood? What's that going to do to his psyche to
Mhm.
say, have this cognitive dissonance between, the, well, between, no, not between, this cognitive dissonance of a rebellion being successful? Because isn't the whole point that they're the underdogs? And there's a mindset of, it's only legit if we're losing. And Mon Mothma is a winner, and she gets it. In order, we actually want to be successful here. So I don't know. I mean, is that Luthen's mindset? Maybe we'll see more if that's the case. Um, he thinks he has to be the loser in order for everyone else to win, and I think that might actually have damage to his psyche and to his choices. But yeah, like I was saying before, yeah, this raising a lot of questions about where these folks end up. It's true.
Yeah. That's about it. I mean, we
Yeah,
talked about Cinta and Vel. Kind of,
yeah.
they're not happy.
I mean,
There's
there's a
another
good
ship.
example. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. You're about to say
There's
the
another
thing.
ship down the drain.
Well, there's another example of, are you going to sacrifice your soul for the cause, or are you actually going to find a life, which is the point of the cause, right? The Empire takes your life away, so find it anyways, and find yourself anyways. And it looks like Vel is wanting to find herself. Even you talking with Mon about finding someone, right? Seeing her second cousin get hitched. I mean, that's
Mhm.
gotta be a thing, especially given. I mean, they play that up. They surely, given that Cinta shows up there, and yeah, that's the thing. Is Cinta? I mean, even in on Ferrex, they're together on Ferrex, they're clearly Cinta's more devoted to the cause and not to the rest of her life that Vel represents. And so, yeah, definitely, another set of characters. Yeah, you have these parallels. You have Mon and Luthen. You have Vel and Cinta. Um, maybe Bix and Cassian. Maybe Bix is going to be more devoted to the cause. Maybe Cassian's going to be more devoted. Interesting question there. I don't know, but yeah.
We'll have
Um,
to. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah,
mhm.
I mean, I will say this, Matt. You talked about about the viewing order. I mean, this does
Mhm.
work better if you watch all three at once. You kind of have to.
Yeah,
It
it's true.
you don't wait a day.
It's true.
You go all out.
But in the week that my job just got super busy and super interesting, but super busy. But yeah,
Um,
it's definitely makes sense to have them all together. It's true. I'll stop complaining about it. It's fun. It's fine.
I actually quite enjoyed it
Yeah.
myself, just because I feel like I had more to talk about than I feel like
Sure.
we would have had more to talk about because of just being able to see all three at once.
Yeah.
And obviously, yes, there's still things that we are speculating about
Hmm.
for the rest of the season, but I do feel like we had a bit more of a completer narrative,
Yes.
at least when it came to like how that's my dad. Nope,
Mm.
that's my dad.
Nice.
Well, that's my dad.
Yeah. We had a more
Yes.
complete narrative.
If
Yeah.
of of at least on the Kathy and Ferric side, and even the Mon
Mm.
stuff. I mean, the wedding's over by the time that's over.
True.
The Gorman stuff is very much still set up. I think that's going to be set up through a couple arcs. I think that's kind of our
Yeah.
big crescendo moment. Um,
Hmm.
but no, overall, a good arc, a good arc. I'm curious to see when all are done what my favorite arcs are like.
Hmm.
Um, but it definitely, I think it worked, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of grateful to be able to have a very meaty discussion because of it, compared to kind of just one episode with some meat. But there's definitely feels like we're missing two more parts.
Yeah. Again, another thing with the acolyte, right?
Mhm.
And funny, watching Revenge of the Sith, we're still flying half a ship. Now I was like, for episode 4, we're still watching half an episode. This is not going to have that problem at all, right? I mean, they're not even episodes. So there's these mini films. Yeah, they kind of each episode kind of has a rhythm to it, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be able to watch all 3 in one sitting after coming home from watching Revenge of the Sith. But uh, yeah, it'll be good. I agree. For storytelling reasons, I mean, Star Wars seems to need this. Oddly enough, I mean, Skeleton Crew, they were able to plot it out in a way that wasn't weird or frustrating. Ahsoka, yeah, they got the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka together, got the first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew together, right? I think. Although I think I just saw the first no, I saw first 2 episodes in the theater. Um, yeah, I mean that's the challenge is that the first episode always doesn't show much because it can only be set up in these serialized continuous stories. So, or not serialized, continuous stories. So, yeah, I definitely, I mean, this does feel like a unit, especially knowing the time jump. And that's
Mhm.
the other thing. We got another year time jump coming up in 20 hours, 22 hours. So, uh, yeah, it's going to be to see what kind of, I'm curious to know what kind of gaps our minds are going to have to fill in, what kind of how they're going to have to tell the story to catch us up to what's happened in a year, which they did a great job for the first arc. Yeah, it'll be, who knows if people are able to follow it and track it. I think they will. I think they'll be very clear, even without any kind of crawl or anything. But um,
I
definitely
yeah,
looking forward to what has in store.
I do think that if you liked the season one kind of
Mhm.
pace, I think you might be a little disappointed because of the year time jump, since
Mhm.
kind of these are you're not going to deal with like the exact like unfortunately we're not going to see like the
Mhm.
exact aftermath of what happens to Cassie and the gang as they fly off,
Right.
unfortunately. Um
Mhm.
that's a little unfortunate. But I think
Mhm.
it's good to kind of go into that mindset of like it's as good as season one because it's well made, well scripted, looks beautiful. Uh, but the pacing won't be similar to season one.
Yeah.
So kind of going like almost you almost think it's like this is a different show almost.
Yeah.
But it's just as good and just as
I think
poignant.
the fact that we know what's coming definitely helps.
That too.
Helps prime our minds to say we're getting a time jump. Honestly, I think I'm going to enjoy it more. I know it's good. Patience is a virtue,
I
and a
kind of enjoy it
slow
more.
teasing out. Like, oh gosh, Picard. There's the Star Trek counter. So slow unfolding. It was great. I thought it was fantastic, but frustratingly painful. This show is not going to have that at all. And again, that's also about being accessible the way Star Wars is accessible, and but also, and that's the thing, that accessibility is going to be a vehicle like that TIE fighter is this vehicle on action that enables the show to challenge us in our perspectives about the real world and about our approach to Star Wars and heroism, just like The Last Jedi did. So yeah, I think it's ultimately successful, like we're saying tonight, how we have this complete 3-episode arc. We're able to really dive into these characters already and also speculate and predict of what's to come. So yeah, it's working for me.
Cassian versus X Sarkoon. Let's go. Come on, Tony Gilroy. Don't be a coward. Yes.
That would be something. That would be
That
interesting.
That would be something.
Well,
but
here's
yeah.
my last question. Here's my poll. And for viewers, listeners, chime in as well. Take Colma, dead or alive. What do you think?
I think he's dead. It's the Cinta thing in the Aldani arc where Cinta just walks out and it's like, what happened to the hostages? We never see them again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Cinta again. There we go. In the comments, folks in the comments, chime in. Folks listening later, we'll do.
Check in on Ash for us. How?
Yes, we'll do a poll on social media. The spammers in the comments on Twitch are doing something else entirely. Folks on Spotify and Apple, I'll do a poll on Spotify. Let's do a poll on social media. Take Colma, dead or alive? What do we think? But yeah.
Poor Mon. Yeah. But I think we've done it. You know, I was expecting a long episode. I think they're all gonna be long. I can't wait for the next arc. I'm kind of we obviously know certain things are going to happen just by the trailers and where we know we're going, but I am kind of curious, like, what's the next arc, especially for Cassian? He's kind of like, what's his next adventure?
Yeah, looking forward to it. But for now, yeah, we're 10:45 Eastern time, so I think good time to wrap
Canada
things up.
Election updates before we leave.
Kind of inching towards a majority, but still too soon. So they need how many they need for a majority? I can't quite tell. I forget.
Wouldn't the NDP though give them the extra seats if they got minority?
No, it's not how it works. Like we don't do coalitions, but
Okay.
it's sort of how it worked in the last government. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, so keep that locked. But anyways, that's a good place to wrap things up as we're approaching 11 o'clock in 2 hours and 15 minutes there. Thanks everyone for joining us in the comments. Much appreciated. Please do let us know what you thought of our conversation. What do you think of Andor episodes 1, 2, and 3? What do you think of Revenge of the Sith at 20? If you're going to go see it, if you've seen it, let us know. Super excited for that as well. And yeah, ladies, take Colma, dead or alive. We will see you next week. Joel, thanks for leading this discussion as always. Great job as always. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at GID20234, GID20234 on Blue Sky. You can also follow us at the Ion Can Pod. I did a little bit of a thread regarding organization, the rebellion, and institutional power that the rebel leaders have that those chuckleheads didn't. And of course, you can follow us on Star Wars Underworld Discord, where we most likely will be playing Fortnite next week to play some Star Wars Fortnite. Let's go.
There we go. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at MEUG 1138. This is Star Wars number, Matthew. Also, beaches.foodie on Instagram, Twitter, NEUG485, and of course, at Ion Cannon Pod, at Ion Cannon in the Discord. Tractor Beam. We're also probably going to go long. Edge of Balance, Premonition, and Volume 4. Adventures and Battle of Ariado, kind of try and combine the Edge of Balance conversation, combine the HRE conversation, and talk about the Beyond Victory one shot as well. That goes this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. Again, next week, next arc. That's it. That's simple. That's what we're talking about. We're talking Andor. We're talking Andor because it's going to give us stuff to talk about, and it drops in 22 hours from now. So it's going to be, is it 20? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. 22. I can do math. Just over 22 hours from now. So going to be fun, going to be interesting, going to be a time jump. But until then, Joel, let's blow this thing and head home.